Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Meeting is called to order. Would y'all please stand for the invocation? Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, as we come together today, we want to be sure that we make all decisions under your guidance and under your will, and just give us the wisdom to do that. Bless this country, bless the men and women who serve us in the services, Lord. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
You join me to pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Join me to pledge to Texas.
honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you all. I think we have some presentations this morning. Donnie Green from the Area Agency on Aging from North Central Texas Council of Government is here and will present an update to us.
Want you all to get your money's worth. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share some information with you this morning. Would like to thank our Hood County representatives to the Regional Aging Advisory Committee, Carol Cockrum and Blake Barker.
I don't see Blake here.
Thank you.
And my purpose in coming here this morning is to give you a very brief overview of services provided through our agency. We are very, very indebted to Hood County for its support of our aging programs, and I want to make sure that Hood County is getting its money's worth. And I'd also be happy to answer any questions that you might have about our programs. For those of you who are not familiar with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, we receive funds through the federal Administration on Community Living, as well as the Texas Department of Aging and Disability Services. And we provide services in two different ways. One, through contracts with local organizations, and then second, we provide a number of direct services. And I'd like to start by sharing a little bit of information about our contracted services. We're very fortunate to have an extremely strong provider in the county, the Hood County Committee on Aging, and we contract with the Hood County Committee on Aging for nutrition and transportation services. Of all the funding we receive from the federal and state government, more than half is dedicated to nutrition services. So home-delivered meals, congregate meals are really the cornerstone of our programs. At the county level, during the last fiscal year, the Hood County Committee on Aging served 299 participants at congregate meal sites. Collectively, those congregate meal participants received 14,653 meals through at least partial funding through the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging. The home-delivered meal program benefited 444 older homebound persons in Hood County, and those persons received 52,004 meals through funding that was passed through our agency. In addition, the Hood County Committee on Aging contracted with the Texas Department of Aging and Disability Services to serve younger people with disabilities. The transportation program that is administered by the Area Agency on Aging assisted 52 riders in Hood County, and collectively those riders received 3,811 trips. We also contract with a number of caregiver educators who did a number of workshops and seminars in the area and provided caregiver counseling. In terms of direct services, our agency administers an information referral and assistance program, and we deal with a variety of calls that come in from the mundane to quite interesting. Got a phone call recently. There's a naked woman riding a bicycle and you need to come get her. Well, let me grab my nets and I'll be right out. We also fund a benefits counseling program, and through benefits counseling, we work with folks of all ages and help connect them with public and private benefits. We help folks choose Medicare Part D prescription drug programs, get connected with veterans benefits, understand how to qualify for nursing home Medicaid, and so on. In the Hood County area last year, we provided legal assistance, which is personalized counseling, decision support by either a benefits counselor or an attorney. Again, 89 folks in the Hood County area receive those services. We have a care coordination program that works with older adults who have recently been in a hospital, rehab facility, or nursing home and need some additional support in order to return safely to their homes. Last year, the program assisted 48 older persons in the Hood County area. Through that program, we provided light housekeeping, assistance with residential repair. We do a lot of wheelchair ramps to help folks access their homes and get from their homes to the doctor's office. We also provided emergency response devices, electronic medication dispensers, and so on. We have a caregiver support program that works with caregivers of older adults. Last year, it assisted 35 caregivers in Hood County. And those caregivers can be of any age. Through the caregiver program, we can help out with home repairs, utility bills, time-limited supplies of medical equipment and supplies, in addition to respite care. And through the caregiver program, we focus on caregivers who are living with the care receiver and providing care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which can really be an emotionally and physically draining experience. So those respite services can be really vital in terms of allowing those caregivers to recharge and return to their caregiving responsibilities. We also have a program that works with grandparents who are at least 55 years of age and raising grandchildren who are under the age of 18. We do give priority to grandparents who are raising grandchildren with special needs. And through that program, we can provide counseling for the grandparents, legal assistance to help them meet with attorneys and establish guardianship if indicated. We can also provide limited assistance with buying back-to-school supplies and clothing. We have a nursing home ombudsman program that advocates for the people, for the rights of people who live in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. We also have a very robust program that works with people who live in nursing homes and wish to return to the community. We target those who face the most intense barriers to independent living. Specifically, we work with those who don't have housing, who may have both physical disabilities and mental illness. We work with those who need assistance with 5 or more activities of daily living, and those who have been living in the facilities for 6 months or longer. Last year, we relocated 300 individuals from nursing homes to the community. We've also gotten much more involved in preventive health programs. Our agency does provide a continuum of services, from services provided to healthy active adults in the senior center to services that advocate for those who live in nursing homes. And all things equal, we would much rather do an exercise wellness program in the senior center than advocate for someone who is in a nursing home. And so to that end, we are really working on expanding the scope of our fall prevention program. We have a program that works with small groups over the course of 8 weeks and helps them learn strategies to reduce their risk of falling. We also have a chronic disease self-management program that works with folks who have various chronic diseases, whether it's heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and so on. And through that class, we help people become more knowledgeable about their disease process and really learn how to take control of that, how to communicate with the doctor, with the family, how to sleep better, how to manage stress. One of the programs that we were delighted to target Hood County with through a pilot project, the Aging and Disability Resource Center, we are getting ready to take that program throughout our entire 14-county region. And so during the next year, we'll be rolling out Aging and Disability Resource Centers to surrounding counties, including Somerville, Erath, Johnson. For those of you who are not familiar with the Aging and Disability Resource Center, it is a one-stop shop where people of all ages with all types of disabilities can receive information about services that support independent living. So we work with folks who may have cerebral palsy, Alzheimer's, autism, and help connect them with services that allow them to remain in the community. We really have a strong bias in favor of community living. And so during the next year, we'll be working on expanding our volunteer complement, expanding our knowledge base, our network, so that we can better assist consumers. Currently, we have a satellite office in Granbury that's located at the Pecan Valley Centers at 104 Pirate Drive. We have staff from our agency who travel from Arlington to Granbury and are available Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We're getting ready to add services on Tuesday so that we'll be 4 days a week, and we hope to get to 5 days a week. It's been quite a challenging budget year for us. For the first time since I've been with the agency, we actually had a reduction in federal funds. We lost about $400,000 this year in Area Agency on Aging funding, so we've had to scale back a bit. We are looking forward to the new year. We are expecting some additional funding for our Aging and Disability Resource Center, so we're doing our very best to make sure that our service levels are not diminished but actually expand. We're learning to work smarter. We're really focusing on volunteer recruitment through our ombudsman program, through our benefits counseling program. And the message that I'd like to leave you with is please do not hesitate to call on us, to refer your constituents to us. If they're dealing with disability issues, if they're dealing with aging issues, we do specialize in kind of long-term care and alternatives to long-term care. We are available to you all by phone at the Granbury Center, and we also rely on a network of staff and contract workers who are able to go out and do home visits as needed. So with that, I'll go ahead and close my formal remarks. If you all have any questions about the services that we fund, I'd be delighted to try to address those.
Any questions? I really I knew about most of this, but I didn't know about the grandparent support services. I think that's really good.
That's kind of an under-recognized phenomenon. It's been surprising to me to read about the literature. I believe about 8 or 9% of children are being raised by their grandparents, and those grandparents are more likely to be struggling with low incomes. The grandchildren are more likely to have special needs, especially if the parent is absent because of substance abuse. Oftentimes the parent is in jail, and a lot of times those grandparents feel very isolated. They're afraid to speak out. They think that somehow if they were a better parent, they wouldn't be in that situation, and that's almost never the case. So we're really working on kind of creative strategies. Typically, we've conducted outreach through senior centers. Senior centers are not the best places to find grandparents who are raising grandchildren. We need to be partnering with PTAs, with school districts, because so many times these issues are intertwined.
All right, anyone else? Well, thank you very much for coming.
Again, thank you very much.
Okay, the next item is a presentation from our Central Texas Council of Government to brief the court on storm shelters and safe rooms and how Hood County qualifies.
Judge, this is Francisco San Miguel. He's a senior emergency preparedness specialist. And through an email from the fire marshal's office. He's working with hazard mitigation, and I think he's going to explain hazard mitigation to us and then talk to us about the fact that there's 4 counties already receiving FEMA grants and how Hood County will be able to achieve that goal, I believe.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to come present to you, commissioners and judge. Like I said, like Commissioner Barry said, I'm here to present on the current status of the Hazard Mitigation Action Plan for Hood County. It's a multi-jurisdictional plan, so it's not just encompassing Hood County, but various other jurisdictions within the county. One of the main purposes of having this plan in place is to make the county eligible for what are known as hazard mitigation assistance funding through FEMA, which is where the storm shelter program that we're currently implementing in the metro counties is funded. One of the latest updates that we just received from the Texas Division of Emergency Management and FEMA in regards to the guidance of the program is that we'll actually be able to expand that program out here to Hood County and the other 12 counties that currently don't have the plan a lot sooner than we initially anticipated. One of the things that kind of hindered us rolling out the program out here in this first phase was the fact that this plan wasn't in place and approved by FEMA. Because according to hazard mitigation assistance guidance, in order to receive any type of federal funding under hazard mitigation, you first have to have a FEMA-approved hazard mitigation action plan. Now, with the as I'll go through in my presentation, as of last week, the 28th, we received revised guidance from the state and FEMA, indicating that moving forward, we will be able to expand the Safe Room program to all 16 counties within the COG region under the COG agency plan. So no matter what the status is of the Hood County plan, under the COG agency plan, we'll be able to, again, expand the program once additional funding becomes available, hopefully here within the next couple of months. So just to give you a little bit of background on mitigation planning in our region, COG initially took on mitigation planning as part of a hazard mitigation grant program grant for the disaster of Tropical Storm Allison. The actual grant became available in November of 2007. Hazard mitigation planning initiated under our Environmental Development Department. Under that grant, the initial plan was to develop a regional hazard mitigation action plan that was going to cover all 16 counties within the region and every jurisdiction within those counties. At the time, with FEMA hazard mitigation planning guidance indicated that regional plans were permissible, so that's why COG was taking the initiative to develop a 16-county plan to cover the entire region. Halfway during that planning process, FEMA changed their guidance and we're no longer accepting regional plans. So if you look at the current list of approved plans within the state of Texas, you'll see maybe 2 or 3 plans that are on a regional scale, but the rest of them are on a county scale or if not a city scale. Through that process, our Environmental Development Department basically got halfway through and we're able to complete the regional risk assessment, which is basically kind of the base planning tool that we use for all of the developments of all of our hazard mitigation action plans. So because of the process and because they became frustrated with the ever-changing guidance of FEMA, they decided to hand the planning process off to our Department of Emergency Preparedness, where we took it on. Initially, we wanted to take the bull by the horns and try to develop 16 multi-jurisdictional county plans to cover all 16 counties at once. Became a very daunting task, so we decided at that time to just focus our attention to our population core, which was the 4 metro counties at that time, with the intent of eventually expanding planning to the additional 12 counties. In our initial planning phase, we had our final plan approved in April 10th, which was the Denton and Collin County plan. So after we finished those 4 plans, we then again shifted our focus to the other 12 counties. Now, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for Disaster 1931, which is Hurricane Alex, which was a hurricane that affected the Texas Gulf Coast, that is the grant that's actually funding the planning process for Hood County. Under that grant, we're also developing plans for Johnson, Parker, and Wise County. The reason why we do that is because with these federal grants, there's a 75-25 local, or federal-local split in the cost share. So because of that, we want to try to meet that cost share through in-kind match. So staff time that's spent on working on this project, any travel that's spent on this project, any facility usage that's used on this project, any resources that are used on this project by a local jurisdiction that are not already funded by another federal grant can be applied as part of the in-kind match. The last thing we want to do as part of this planning process is add another financial burden to the already tight budgets of the local jurisdictions. So we don't want this to become another cash type of match for the local jurisdiction, another line item budget. So that again, that's why we like to do the in-kind cost share. And again, that's why we like to basically group these counties together under a single grant, because the more counties we get on these grants and the more jurisdictions within those counties we get into the grants, it minimizes the cost share burden for each individual jurisdiction. Now, the purpose of the Hazard Mitigation Action Plan is to identify local hazards, analyze those local hazards, identify strategies, goals to address those hazards, identify action items to address those hazards, and the main purpose of doing all that is to basically become eligible for FEMA Hazard Mitigation Assistance funding. The Hood County Hazard Mitigation Action Plan, we initiated the planning a year ago, actually. We opened up the planning process to the entire county, so anyone that was interested in participating was deemed eligible to participate at the time. So since then, our Emergency Preparedness Planning Council has now implemented a policy to where any new jurisdictions that want to participate in the COGS Hazard Mitigation Action Plan program have to be a member of our department. So some of these current jurisdictions that aren't a part of the COG department were basically grandfathered in, so they don't have to worry about becoming a member of our agency to participate in hazard mitigation action planning. So in that initial kickoff meeting, I passed out a notice of interest form where any jurisdiction that was interested in participating had to fill out. It was a non-binding contract. It didn't hold them to anything until we received the grant. And then after we received the grant, I sent out an interlocal agreement to every jurisdiction that was going to participate in the plan that basically locked them in to the planning process. But within that interlocal agreement, there was also an out clause. So if at any time they received that, it believed that or deemed that the planning process was becoming too overwhelming for their local resources, they could get out of it.
Why are like Toller and Lipan not on here?
They were, like I said, sir, they were invited to the initial kickoff meeting, and I believe Toller was there. I'm not sure about Lipan, but Brian Fine did invite the former emergency management coordinator did extend an invitation out to each jurisdiction, and these were the ones that were interested in participating. As you'll see, one of the unique things about the Hood County plan, unlike some of the other county plans that we've developed, you guys will actually have a river authority that's going to be a part of your plan, which is pretty interesting. It's going to make your plan unique, and it's a really good, I guess, best practice that you guys are having a planning partner such as the Brazos River Authority participating in your plan. Now, the status of the Hood County plan. The plan, it has 5 chapters. First chapter is basically a description of the plan itself and the communities that are participating. The second chapter is the planning process. It's a very important chapter because one of the things that FEMA harps on is to make sure that every jurisdiction that's involved in the plan participates. So we have to provide a very thorough description of the planning process from beginning to end. Every little detail, every little meeting that took place will be inserted into that chapter. The third chapter is currently the process that I'm working on right now, which is the hazard analysis, and I'll go into more detail on the next slide about that. The fourth chapter is basically the mitigation strategies, goals, and action items, which is basically the action items are going to be your wish list of projects that you would want to implement within Hood County. So if Hood County were to be given a blank check, these are the projects that Hood County would want to implement in its community in order to reduce its vulnerability to the hazards that's identified in the hazard analysis. So that's where you identify projects such as the Safe Room Project, improvements to roads and bridges that may be flooded, community shelters even, outdoor warning sirens, public education programs. That's where you would identify those type of projects. And then the 5th chapter is basically the maintenance of the plan itself. These hazard mitigation action plans have a 5-year lifespan, so they have to be updated every 5 years. And ideally, you want to really start concentrating on the updating process after the 3rd year, because the updating process could take you another year, especially if you have new jurisdictions that come on. And then the approval process, based on guidance from FEMA, it's supposed to be a 45-day turnaround, but we've had instances where it can take up to 6 to 8 months to get word back from FEMA on the status of your plan. So the hazard analysis itself, the process that we're working on, these are basically the high points of that. Our main priorities with that are first to identify the hazards. We only focus on natural hazards in this planning process. And the main reason why is that that's what FEMA hazard mitigation planning indicates. So we don't have to address technological or man-made hazards at this point. The only exception to that are high hazard dams. So like, for example, one of the dams that we're addressing as part of the Hood County plan is Possum Kingdom, and the effects that a dam failure in Possum Kingdom could have downstream on Granbury and Hood County. After we address those hazards, we identify them as either geographically or non-geographically specific. And what we mean by that, our geographically specific hazards are going to be areas such as your floodplains and your what is known as your wildland-urban interface. And what wildland-urban interface is basically where you have development or structures that interact with wildland, which makes them more susceptible to wildfires. And then your non-geographically specific hazards are going to be stuff like hail, high winds, severe heat, tornadoes, because everyone within the Hood County is equally susceptible to those hazards. After we've identified those hazards, we then basically try to address what their likelihood is, and then also what the potential impact or damage they can have on a given community. And we basically do that through 2 ways. We have various data sets from the National Climate Data Center, from the FEMA floodplain maps, from local data sets that we may get from local communities, and also the input that we get from local stakeholders. So we've held various planning meetings within Hood County with each jurisdiction to basically address these hazards on a one-by-one basis. I have basically work packets that I work through with each jurisdiction to basically address each hazard and discuss each hazard and the impact and the history of that hazard within the given jurisdiction. The hazard mitigation approval process. After the final public review, there has to be 2 public reviews for this plan. We would then basically get the final sign-off for you guys that the plan is good to go, and then we would submit it to the Texas Division of Emergency Management at their mitigation office to have an initial review. Then after they've approved it and said that there are no revisions that need to be made to the plan, it's made all planning specifications. It would then send it on to FEMA Region 6 at Denton for the final review. If FEMA then provides it with a final review, they would then send us, the state and the Council of Governments, what is known as an approved pending adoption letter, which basically states that your plan has been approved pending the adoption of the Commissioner's Court. So once that plan has been adopted by the Commissioner's Court, that's when that 5-year lifespan starts for the actual plan itself. So we're hoping to bring this plan to you guys around July. So we're about a month from the timeline that I initiated with this project. We're about a month behind schedule, but we kind of budgeted in a way to where we could expand it to 15 months. So we're, in terms of the budget for the grant, we're still on course for that. Now to probably what you're more interested to, which kind of relates to mitigation planning and why we didn't initiate this plan in Hood County to begin with, was, as I mentioned earlier, one of the requirements to receive hazard mitigation assistance funding, which funded the Metro Safe Room rebate program at the time, was any given jurisdiction that received hazard mitigation assistance funding had to have an approved hazard mitigation action plan. So that's why Hood County and the other 12 counties within the COG region were not included in this initial grant request. The only 4 counties that had a plan at the time were Collin, Denton, Tarrant, and Dallas. The week before we kicked off the program, we received revised guidance from the state and FEMA indicating that because the plan was actually, the program was requested under COGS Hazard Mitigation Action Plan, that we could expand the program to all 16 counties. Now, because of the time constraints and because of the initial project that we submitted, we did not have time to submit a project change to the state to expand the program at the time. This also threw another monkey wrench in our planning process because within those four counties alone, there were only about 20 jurisdictions of over the 100 that were actually eligible for the program, because not only did your county have to have an approved hazard mitigation action plan, but each individual jurisdiction that wanted to participate within the plan or within the project had to have an approved hazard mitigation action plan, and not everyone did within those 4 counties itself. So kind of one of the benefits, I guess going back to your concern about Lipan and Tolar, is when we expand the project to Hood County, even though they don't have a hazard mitigation action plan, residents for those jurisdictions will still be eligible for the program. So the program would allow for approved applicants to receive a rebate of half the cost up to $3,000 of installing or constructing a safe room within their home. Now within that, there are caveats to eligibility. Of course, it has to be their primary home. They have to be the homeowner of the property. They can't live within an identified or locally identified floodplain zone, basically a 100-year floodplain, a FEMA floodplain zone, or Zone A. I'm trying to think of the other requirement. It just slipped my mind, but it'll come back to me here in a bit. But those are and use an approved contractor through the National Safe Room or National Storm Shelter Association or the American Tornado Shelter Association. So basically, those are the 2 approved vendor lists. And within the Council of Governments, we do not provide the list. We just refer people to those associations because we don't want to become liable with having to keep that list up to date as it may, change as new
Can I
vendors.
stop you right there? What I see here is a safe room.
Yes, sir.
Is that strictly safe room, or can?
No, they're different vendors have different solutions. So some of them do use the underground shelter, but that's basically the umbrella term that FEMA uses for storm shelters in general, is safe room, sir. So yes, it could be underground shelters. There's a couple of shelters that are basically installed within the foundations of your home that are simply bolted in. Like I said, it just depends on what type of solution the vendor that you would decide to go with provides, and whether they meet FEMA specifications, and whether that contractor is a part of one of those member associations. So if they are, their solution does or should provide solutions that meet FEMA specs.
Okay. So they can be outside the house, right? Okay.
So within the Metro Safe Room rebate program that we initiated, we had about 440 spots. So we divided that up to 110 spots per county. We had an online application portal, but we also provided 10 spots reserved per county for residents that may not have access to computer or just felt more comfortable with applying through paper copy. As I said earlier, FEMA provided us with a drastic change the week before we kicked off the program. So our scope changed from about rolling out this program to from about 20 jurisdictions to about well over 80 within those 4 core counties. The application process was opened June 5th, earlier this week, or last week, sorry. And the application process was fully operational at 1:15 a.m. and we actually had to close it at 5:30. Now, the reason why we've been getting a lot of angry calls about this. Our initial intent was to have the site fully operational at midnight, June 5th. We were not making that public knowledge because we wanted to keep the application process open throughout the day, so we didn't want to give the public a specific time of when the application process would open. And the reason why we wanted to do it that way was because we had a lot of concerns from our IT department from internet traffic causing our servers to crash. And I had to defer with, not us, but our department had to defer to them in terms of that. So at the time when we received 500 or 800 applications at the 4-hour mark, they decided to basically close down the application process. So you can imagine this past week we've been dealing with a lot of angry phone calls from a lot of residents wondering why they weren't provided with the means to apply for the program. One of the things that we're working on is this, in this initial phase, we basically made it a first come, first served basis. We're working on our process right now, and we're going to go to our Emergency Preparedness Planning Council for additional guidance on the rollout process. One of the things that we're going to work on doing in the next phase, especially when we roll it out to the rural counties, is to basically do rollouts rollout to counties on different dates. So Hood County will have its own specific date where it's reserved for Hood County to apply. So we will not have to worry about that internet traffic issue like we did before.
That was my question. How do you know out of the 800, how many went to Dallas County, Denton County, Tarrant County?
As part of the application process, they have to select which county that they apply for, and basically the online application process automates it, so it calculates for us which county has how many allotments. So I believe the most applications we received from a county was about 170. So the first 100, if they're eligible, after we vet their application, would receive funding to start the construction process, and then those next 70 would be put on a wait list for additional funds.
So it's first come, first serve, as you said.
At this time,
this
yes.
time.
At this time. But when I'll go into it right here in this slide, actually. NETCOG will expand, like I said, we'll expand the program to all 16 counties. We're currently in the process of working of submitting a project change under this grant. Even though the current allotment of funding that we received for this phase of the project has all been accounted for, the Texas Division of Emergency Management has stated to us that they will actually provide us with supplemental funding, which will be available to Hood County. So we're not gonna divide it in the same way we did before, which is going to be 110 shelters for the 4 core counties. But that's basically another thing that we're working on in tandem with trying to receive that allotment is what is a equitable way of distributing those safe rooms to all 16 counties. And that's something that we're going to discuss at the next EPPC meeting, or Emergency Preparedness Planning Council meeting, where we'll provide recommendations, and then in the following meeting in August, we'll try to devise a policy that'll be suitable for the entire region. So like I said, we'll provide recommendations and then get input from the Planning Council at that time. And in addition to that supplemental funding for this grant, for this specific grant, the Hazard Mitigation Program, DR 1999, COG will also be applying for what's known as a Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant. It's a grant that's going to be opening up at the end of this month, if not early July. One of the things that I kind of have to stress on that, though, is that application process can take up to a year. So we may not see that funding for the pre-disaster mitigation grant till next summer or next severe, hopefully by the time of next severe weather season, to help us with our marketing. So the supplemental funding that we're going to receive for the state through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is basically a Band-Aid for the current problem, and hopefully the pre-disaster mitigation grant, if we acquire that funding, will provide us with a bit longer-term solution and provide us with more funding so we can provide more safe rooms for the residents of Hood County. I think it died on me.
That's your last slide.
Oh, it was my last slide. Okay. So yes, like I said earlier, this is not going to be a 1 or 2 year deal. This is going to be something that we're going to, because the need is there, of course, as you guys witnessed last month, tornadoes can come out of nowhere and they can cause damage and death. And my heart goes out to Hood County and the residents of Granbury. The night of the storm, as I'm sure you guys experienced, I didn't get a lot of sleep that night, and I thought a lot about mitigation and what we could have done previously to have tried to help more residents. And I'm sure as you guys have learned a lot of lessons, so have we throughout this implementation of this program. One of the good things about some of the lessons that we've learned in implementing the program in the metro counties first is that they're going through a lot of the growing pains. So when we roll out this program out to Hood County, hopefully it'll be a much more efficient and streamlined process. So we will be able to help as many residents within Hood County as possible. And that's the end of my presentation. I'm open to any questions.
You said you were getting calls because people were upset about the way y'all were doing your internet and your applications. We're getting the same calls from our residents upset that we're not in the program. So when we get those calls, if they're not happy with our answer, can we refer them to COG?
Yes, please do. Please, by all means, do. And you have my contact number, and I have cards, and they can refer to our nctsaferoom.com website, because within what we're planning.
Slow down one time. Give that one more time.
nctsaferoom.com. Okay. And within 2 weeks, we're actually going to be opening up the waitlist process. And I'm sorry I didn't hit on that on my presentation, but that waitlist process is going to be open up to all 16 counties. So we encourage residents of Hood County to go ahead and register on that site once the waitlist becomes open, because it'll do two things. It'll provide us with basically not necessarily a pre-approval list, but a list of residents that are interested that we can contact once the funding becomes available directly. And second thing, what it'll provide us with is a list of interested residents for our application process, because as part of the pre-disaster mitigation process, we have to actually provide addresses of residents that are interested as part of our justification for the funding that we demand. So as part of that pre-disaster mitigation grant, we're looking to apply between anywhere to 7 and 8 million. So we actually need to have around 3,000 to 4,000 residents already pre-identified as part of our application process.
One more question. I saw a report on one of the local news channels where a lady in, I believe, Denton County or Collin had put one of these in herself. She applied this year to get funding to reimburse her. She missed it, so she's going to wait for it to open again. Can you expand on that?
Unfortunately, we cannot provide retroactive rebates. So we can, if you decide to, and we do not discourage people from going ahead and building safe rooms on their own. Anything to get a safe room within your home, within your residence, that's going to make you and your family safer, we strongly encourage you to do that. But that will disqualify you from receiving a rebate through this program.
That's fine. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, sir. Any additional questions?
Oh, thank you very much.
And one more thing, like I said, we'll be providing press releases and information out through different social media in terms of when the waitlist process will open. And like I said earlier, we'll send that information out through your emergency management office. That way they can provide that to your local residents. And we strongly encourage you to refer them to nctsaferoom.com. And if they have any other questions, there's contact information on that office, and they can feel free to contact our office. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Francisco,
Thank you.
for coming down. Thank you.
Mary, do you have any presentations today? None. Okay. Does any citizen wish to make any comments about any agenda items? If you do, raise your hand. The sheriff has a form to fill out. Anyone wish to make any comments about any agenda items? No? Okay, thank you. Consent agenda. Does any county commissioner wish to pull anything off the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Deaver. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tout. Any further discussion? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is subdivision roads and plats, and I believe there are none. Is that right? Congratulations, Don. All right, budget and finance.
Morning, Judge and Commissioners. There's only a couple of budget amendments that have been requested this morning by Constable 4. Chad would like to move $461.75 into his education and travel and training from other line items for required training in his office, and I recommend that for your approval.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the budget line item?
So moved.
Commissioner Berry made that motion. A second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tout. Any further discussion? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Consider payment of bills.
Judge and Commissioners, the total of these bills for your consideration are $451,762.94. I've provided you with a list of those, and also we do have payment warrants for every item on the list. Some of the larger ones, we continue to have large attorney fees for court-appointed attorneys. That's $18,785.61. To Benny Keith for jail groceries, $13,064.65. To the City of Granbury, $43,678.06 for utilities. To Granbury Hood Economic Development Corporation, this is the $20,000 for the lake economic and environmental study that the court...
Just economic, not environmental.
Just economic study. Thank you for that the court approved 2 courts ago. Hood County Appraisal District for quarterly fees, appraisal and collection, $127,950.80. For workers' comp insurance premiums to the Texas Association of Counties, $34,999.50. Our fuel costs are rather large. To Fleet Voyager credit card system, $44,034.78. Some of that is fuel that obviously was required in disaster recovery response. There's really not a form that allows us to file for reimbursement for fuel itself. We have to list the piece of equipment that was applied at the particular time, and there's an hourly rate for that equipment.
That kind of covers that fuel though, right, the hourly rate?
I believe it will cover everything related to that, Commissioner.
Yep.
To Vermeer Equipment of Texas, this is $41,700 for the rental of that large chipper.
Was there taxes on that? Did I saw that?
Delivery fee.
Delivery fee, okay. Continue, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Judge. Those are the items for your consideration. I would ask your permission to pay these bills.
All right, I entertain a motion to ratify paying the bills.
Second.
Commissioner Tout made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Berry. Is there any further discussion? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Consider annual audit report on the county financial statements.
Judge and Commissioners, this could be a very long presentation. I'll try to be as brief as possible. I'm very pleased to give you this report. It is the county's annual financial report for the fiscal year that ended September 30th. Our outside auditors are Patilla, Brown, and Hill from Waco. And unfortunately, their partner in charge of this engagement is in conference this week and could not attend. The report, I will tell you, is a clean report. That is to say, there are no reservations of the auditor's assurance on the financial statements. No qualifications, no reservations of any kind. Page I begins my letter of transmittal that covers this report. It's just explanatory in nature. You can read that on your own time. I won't read this report to you today. It does come in 2 sections. The first report is the lengthy report, and that is the financial statements that are presented. The other one is this brief bound letter of management recommendations from Patilla, Brown, and Hill. And I'm also pleased to say that they do not have any recommendations for improvement of controls. They did not find any deficiency in the county's system of controls. And I think that's a very good statement for the way everybody in the county operates their offices. On page 1 of this report, it's actually several pages into the document, you'll find the auditor's opinion letter, and that is their contribution to this report. This report is actually the responsibility of Hood County, and it's primarily my responsibility. They did also ask Judge Cockerham to sign letters of representation that we have made all the information available to the auditor when they were here. But their contribution is this opinion letter and also a letter of internal controls evaluation towards the back. But the third paragraph on page 1 is the one that I think is very important to you to know, that in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the government activities of each major fund and the aggregate remaining fund information of Hood County, Texas as of September 30th, 2012, and the respective changes in financial position for the year then ended in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted by the United States of America. And this is the highest level of assurance that is permitted by the accounting rules and the auditing rules. As I said, it is a clean report. Page 3 begins management discussion and analysis of the information, and these are qualitative descriptions of the quantitative financial statements. I would encourage you to read that. There are some charts in there that help describe the activities, and it gives some perspective in a very graphic type of representation. Page 15 is a statement of net assets. This is presented basically for the benefit of those who review financial statements to evaluate the county's financial position and try to determine what our credit rating should be. This purports to lump everything of the county onto one page, as though it could be lumped in together as a conglomerate. Of course, we know the county is made up of almost 100 separate funds, and the laws actually prevent those from being commingled. But just to give you a view of the county from, say, 30,000 feet, this is one way of doing it. It helps to identify trends. And so this is stated basically, rather than being on the basis of government accounting and fund accounting principles, this is stated as though the county were being operated as a corporation, a large conglomerate. And I'm pleased to say that the total net assets amount to over $54 million. Page 16 shows you basically a scorecard, if you will, of how the county performed during the year. You know, where the statement of net assets is a snapshot at one moment in time. Page 16 actually shows you the expenditures and the revenues and how that affected the change in fund balance. You see, at last year's end, the fund balance was $52,766,000. The change in net assets during the year of 2012 actually added about $2 million to that. So we ended up at $54,805,000. And those are not liquid assets. Those are not spendable resources. That's just an accounting measure of everything owned by the county and everything that the county owes taken out against it. Page 17 and 18 is a balance sheet for the county, and this is actually on the governmental accounting basis. And so you see here that on page 17, under the column for general, I think this is important for you to note that the general fund reported a fund balance of $10,208,305. And that represents probably just over 6 months of your operating expenses. Your targeted policy for fund balance maintenance is 4 months, 120 days. And so you have a little bit of cushion there, which is extremely good because you just used some of that in responding to the recent storm damages. Then on page 19, you see a reconciliation of the first statement, which was the statement of net assets, and the statement we just looked at, the balance sheet. There are differences between corporate style accounting and government accounting, and this explains all those differences. It also highlights how your management decisions affected the financial position of the county during the year. And on page 20 and 21, there's a statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance. This shows not only a scorecard fund by fund of how the county operated, but it also shows cash flows, and it also shows the effect on the fund balance. So you see in the general fund, the net effect of our activities last year was to add $575,989 to fund balance. And I think it's interesting if you flip over to page 48 and 49. This is another way of looking at the budget for the county. And one thing that I would like to point out is that during the course of last year, virtually every department in the county came in under their budgeted expenditures for the year. And I think that's the third year in a row. I believe that speaks well to the conservative and prudent financial management that is observed across the board by everybody in all the departments of the county. I also think it speaks extremely well for the leadership that Commissioners Court has provided to everybody, because this isn't just one person doing a good job. I think this is across the board an excellent performance, and it has been that way for several years. The financial strength of Hood County is very clear. One way we can demonstrate that is last year, whenever the county borrowed $2.5 million, the interest rate that the county got on that was 1.17%, and that was a multi-year tax note. That is extremely good. The county's bond rating is a AA and with a stable outlook. And I believe in 2006, that bond rating was BBB minus. I want to thank all of the members of the Commissioners Courts over those years who have served and have been very diligent in improving that. You can see that it saves the county money over the long run to hold a strong financial position. Back to pages 24 through 46, these are explanatory notes, and they are a very integral part of the financial statements. I'm not going to read them to you, but I do encourage you to read through those. They go into greater detail of all of the components of the county's equipment, buildings, infrastructure, fixed assets, their depreciation. It goes into great detail on the county's long-term debt, which is in good shape. The new debt that was added, the debt that was paid off. Even though the county borrowed $2.5 million during the year on a tax note, you also see that because of the payment of principal that was scheduled, the county also retired about $2.5 million of long-term debt to leave us in roughly the same position at the end of the year as at the beginning. And that leaves the county with an extremely low debt per capita for our residents. Net fixed assets probably declined about $760,000. And I know that you bought some fixed assets during the year, but because of the allowance that we flow through for depreciation, that would explain that. In December 2011, Commissioners Court made a special payment of $1 million to reduce our unfunded pension obligation. And that unfunded pension obligation to TCDRS had climbed to between $2.5 and $3 million. So that our funded ratio on our county retirement plan was only about 86%. But in December 2011, the court made a $1 million payment to reduce that pension obligation. And then again, in December 2012, the court made an additional $750,000 payment to reduce that unfunded pension obligation. So that our most recent evaluation from the actuaries showed that we're at a funded ratio as of December 31st of about 95%. And I think that is scheduled to go a little bit lower next year. I point that out because it's important as it relates to determination of the county's fund balance and net assets. One of the things that the auditors pointed out to us is that in next year's financial statement, we will be required to disclose that unfunded pension obligation as a direct county obligation in our statement of net assets. If that had been $2.5 million, I think you could see it would immediately wipe out all the gains that we had this year in growth of net assets. But since you have reduced that 2 years in a row, I think probably what we're looking at is adding a debt to the balance sheet next year that's going to be probably less than $1 million. And I think that is that puts us very much within reach of being on very sound footing as far as our retirement plan is concerned. There's so many good things that I could say about this. I'll bring my comments to a close just by saying that I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with you in this regard, and for your allowing me to fully participate with you as you go through and make your decisions. Over the past few years, the county has built this building. The county has fully restored the historic courthouse. The county has purchased the Acton Annex. The county has been able to add positions to our roster that did not exist 7 years ago in the county. You've been able to basically refresh all of our equipment across the county. You've held our debt down to where we owe almost nothing more than we did 7 years ago in the way of long-term debt. You have increased our fund balance from less than 30 days cash flow in the bank to almost 6 months cash flow in the bank. And it's good that we were strong like that and we could absorb the financial impact of the recent storm. In order to do that, you've been able to lower our tax rate in the county from about 38.5 cents to just about 34.5 cents. And I think that is remarkable. There are probably 29 counties in the state of Texas who have reported a lower tax rate than Hood County. And among those are very large counties: Tarrant County, Denton, Dallas, Bexar County, Collin, Midland County. Of course, they have all kinds of oil and gas out there. If you take those out, there are maybe 20 counties in Texas who could argue that they are comparable in any way to Hood County, who report a lower tax rate than Hood County. And I think this speaks extremely well for your diligent and prudent financial management of Hood County. I think this report bears this out, and this has been a trend of your financial reports for the last 3 years. So I would like to thank you for that. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer any of them.
Anybody have any questions for Stan? Nobody? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial statements audit prepared by Patillo, Brown and Hill.
Motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Deaver to have a second. Seconded by Commissioner Berry. Any further discussion on this item? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Items under miscellaneous, item number 1 and 1A is discuss and take appropriate action regarding the closing of the county after the 4th of July holiday on July 5th. And then the 1A is consider and take appropriate action on a request to pay payroll on July 3rd, pending approval of the item 1C. So does anybody have any discussion on this?
I believe this was in reference to the fact that the festivals will be going around the square is on the 5th. Is that the reason this is on there?
Yes, that's exactly the reason it's on there. The chamber wants to be closed the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Of course, way to go, Mike. Yeah, thanks.
You take 1 and 1A together then?
Yeah.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Barry, seconded by Commissioner Deaver to approve items for miscellaneous C, 1 and 1A. Is any further discussion? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you. Next is information technology. Jackie, item number 2.
Thank you, Judge. Some time ago, speaking with Steve, and we discussed having kind of an update of our current projects, and I just wanted to give you just an overview of those. Last year, the county took on several projects, software projects primarily. One of those was the Tyler Odyssey system. The other was the Tyler Encode software system, and the third was our net data update. And I just wanted to give you some current items on that so that you're aware. From a Tyler Odyssey perspective, I noticed that Holly is here from the district clerk's office, and she is more than welcome to come up if she wants to and make any statements that she might have on that. But from a technology perspective with Tyler Odyssey, things have moved along quite well. Every target that has been needed or assigned by a different area has been met. The project has moved along. We are through the first phase of testing, and we're getting ready for what we call our secondary push of information, where we will actually send them some more information, some more data, and they will look at that data, examine it, make sure that we are preparing for our final push of information, which will be the last push. They wait until the second push to actually set more of a timeline of when the completion date will be. And so that's how they govern that, because they're able to say how much conversion has to take place of the data and what kind of timelines are going to be involved in that. Is it going to be weekend times, for technology? Just things of that matter, so that we can actually provide a more stable platform of what to expect and how to plan when we're going to actually initiate the system, when is training going to take place, and those things. But there has been no real surprises from that Odyssey system to this point. Everything is moving along, and I'm very pleased at this point. And if you have any questions regarding the Odyssey system, I'll take those now. I'll just move ahead. I'll go ahead and move on to the Encode system, which is our financial system. And as with the Odyssey system, the Encode system requires several test migrations where we send them information, they check that, see if there's anything that needs to be changed, and then we go on with a second push. They validate that. Once we are there, then we go on with our planning for the final phase of that conversion. Stan has been very helpful in this. He has provided just all the data I think that they could probably ever want, Stan, from speaking with on the phone. They've been very pleased with the reports that they have received from us. They've been very pleased with the data that they have received. We've been able to provide them with clean data that they are requiring that will actually help us have a smooth transition. with any software project, there are always little caveats and little things that come up. And as you can just imagine, with all the moving parts that are in place. But one of the key components is how good is the data, and how is the data coming across? Is it good data that they can work with? Because if we give them bad data, that's what they have to work with. So we've been really working hard trying to give them exactly what they need and make sure that there's no surprises that we can actually address on the front side. And
I'll ask a question. Odyssey's kind of encapsulated between one or two areas mainly. Odyssey is. Encode's got about 4 or 5 working components.
Encode has several working components, which are your treasurer's area, your auditor's area, purchasing, and even encompassing human resources, personnel, where there's some items in there. So it actually takes up a more areas than just Odyssey, which is primarily right now is our district in our court system. And also, Commissioner, I just want to note that I've done some evaluations. We've been receiving our yearly notifications of what they're going to be looking at for cost, and looking at that, the cost with net data and cost with Tyler actually come out almost even. So when we were complete with the transition and everything is through, what we're saving on one is about even with the other, and I just want to say that is a plus. From my point of view, to actually move forward and do something like that and actually be not increasing the cost right there is really good news.
That was my next question, Jackie. With new budget fixed to be worked on, we're in that stage from July, we start working on budget for October. How much budget will you have to have overlap for even Odyssey and or Encode? I mean, or will there be a lot of overlap, or will you have to ask for any at all?
Currently, the plan with Odyssey and the current map, and I certainly just welcome that. If Holly's heard something since this time, that she can come and correct me on this, but it was looking at later September that they were looking at maybe making the final push for Odyssey. So that's right there on the border of having to go another year. The Encode, the discussion with them, and Stan and I were discussing that it could possibly go past that. We really want to do that before, so that number one, that we don't pay another year in software fees for that part of the package, or that we can actually maybe prorate that in some form. And number two is that we really don't want to open up a new budget year in the one program and be moving to another. We would rather close out that year and be done. But we're actually just working through that. Stan and I are working through that with the Encode people to make sure that if it's there. But if there is any part that would be an overlap, it would be in the Encode right now from what I'm seeing.
But to kind of further, I think in your budget, you've going to have some capital outlay because your servers are old and need to be replaced, and we need additional storage. So there's going to be some capital requirements in there over and above, but that doesn't have anything to do with this. But still, there's going to be some.
There is going to be items there as we prepare for that, and as we prepare for new facilities and things that go along with that kind of move.
All right, I believe this is just your report, right? And I don't believe any action needs to be taken on it.
And I do have one more area there for net data.
Okay.
The net data project kicked off about mid-summer of last year. As far as technology part was really concerned, when we actually started the work on that. The conversion of all of our images, which if you imagine every document that comes into court and gets processed, or anything with our clerks being processed in areas, that those conversions take some time. And it did. It was the biggest amount of time that we spent on any one part of the project. Currently, I just want to give you just the high-level overview of that. Images were converted. The new system for net data has been received. It's in our data center. and ready for Net Data to come and make the next part of the installation on that. But they wanted to make sure that we were through with image conversion and that we were through with anything else. Images are converted, server is here. They have done a lot of cleanup on our menu systems, which was more in-depth than they ever thought it might be. And, but they have worked on that. In doing that, we found a couple of programs that actually were not included in the Net Data system, and Commissioners Court approved converting those programs, so they were supposed to be complete at the end of last week. And they are keeping me informed on that. And the one last item that will be going along with the server is our internet records access for the county clerk and attorney hot checks. I have requested that that system be a secured system. Anything that comes across the internet, I am requiring that that be a secured link. And as soon as we know for sure that they can provide us with a secure link for that, then we're moving forward with that. And we're working together with them on that item. And so, Judge, that would complete that. If there's any questions that the court has for me, I'll be glad to answer those.
Okay, and the next, I don't have any. Anybody else have any questions of Jackie? I know one of the things that we're going to have to consider is that replacing the computers and just about, or countywide for any XP rather, technology that's from Microsoft. And I think the first step of that is this item number 2. And Jackie, you want to take that, consider, well, that's not, it's replace 5 notebooks.
Yes. Judge, Commissioners, I've tried to speak with each one of you because at one time or another, one of us has been in your office multiple times to look at the systems that you have. I believe that those notebooks are right at 6 years old now. They have endured a lot of trips and different things that you have to travel around and come in and out of the office on, and they've actually done quite well. But over the last year, we have seen a high increase of problems with those systems. We have done, we've reloaded the systems. We've done a lot of things to try to make them last a little longer, and we're getting to the point where we're spending not only money, but a lot of time, your time and our time both, to try to take those apart, which is a lot like disassembling a watch and putting it back together. And getting everything, and the parts are getting harder and more difficult to find now. So like with any other system, we're wanting to move forward and update those systems for the court. And so I have prepared this, which is basically to replace the systems that you have now with like systems but current. The screens will stay at your desk as they are now, but the systems themselves will be replaced. The cost for all of those systems is $6,717.20. That was with CDWG. We looked over several of our vendors that we deal with to make sure our pricing was correct on that and that we were getting a good price for those. And I bring those forward for your approval. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to cover those.
Fund 55,
Yes, sir, that would be a Fund 55 item.
and you still use the other 5 notebooks, somewhere else?
We will continue to use those, and I would, and if I need to, I'll bring it to the court as another item. But as we have training items, I would like to be able to use those systems for training in different departments, especially going forward with maybe some of the new implementations. Those will work well for that because it's not something that is necessarily mission critical at the time, that we can keep those and kind of take them along and get every bit of use out of those that we can.
This bid here is a solid bid or not to exceed bid? You need it, how do you need it?
This was a solid quote from the company.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Berry. To have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tout. Any further discussion? And all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, Judge. The last item that I had was one that I was working with Sheriff Deeds on, and this was regarding a secondary internet line for their special investigations. And one of the things that this is important for is that the need for anonymity. Whenever they're doing certain investigations, you're actually able to track that back to the county's systems so that you can actually see where it's coming from. And so whenever they're doing some of these investigations, it's important that they keep that information secure. And one of the ways that you do that is they use just a secondary internet line. This system would be only for that investigation system.
No, but nobody but the sheriff and the federal government has,
It's only for that. I've requested that that system that's connected to that not be connected to the county's network whatsoever, just so that anything that's being done there, you know, stays with that system, and it doesn't give anything that's the county's, doesn't put any of our systems in jeopardy, as well as it keeps the sheriff and his department safe. He's here and he.
is that $65 a month?
Yes, sir, it is, and it's a one-time $99 installation fee.
All right, and now, does the sheriff have any money for that, or are we gonna have to do a line item? Is that the way that's gonna be handled? Okay,
Basically, Judge, the reason we come to you on that is that when we do that, you know, they do require a signature on that, so we bring that forward for the court.
Motion to approve.
Second.
motion made by Commissioner Berry, seconded by Commissioner Deaver. Any further discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3 was removed by the county clerk, so it's not needed. So moving on to item number
The reason it
4.
was removed, that was already been approved, I believe. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's right, that's right. It had already been approved once, and it was put on there a second time. Item number 4 is, this is CDBG 2013 relief. Chloe, would you sit there so long you forgot where you were?
I hate to tell you, but one of the requirements of your application is that you have to have a current audit, and it looks like your audit's pretty old, or 12 minutes new or something, I don't know. Really, that's the only remaining paperwork that we've got. Martha does plan to deliver your application once it's approved by the court within 2 days. She's going to need a day just for me to get original signatures to her. We plan to deliver the application on the 13th. Spoke with Stan earlier. He's already got, looks like, a lot of the accounting done for the application itself as well. Be glad to answer any further questions. We have been told that the approval process will be done within 60 days, since it is a disaster declaration. We have not been told when you'll be paid. Again, it's state and federal money, so it just.
And we've
depends
dealt with
on
state money before.
Yes, I'm sure you have.
Does anybody have any questions on this item then?
So the items that we showed you prior to court that we went over with Stan, the way that we're getting road ops to handle it, fire marshal's office, same thing, environmental health, and what we showed you, those type of templates
Those are
will
going to be
work.
perfect.
Okay.
Be perfect. The contract managers at GrantWorks will love you.
What this is a resolution. Is this a $350,000? All right, it says whereas contains the conditions, so forth, so on. The application is up to $350,000 for grant to carry out for disaster recovery activities, debris cleanup and removal in unincorporated areas of Hood County.
That's the one. Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Then I'll entertain a motion, or does anybody have any more questions of Chloe? I'll entertain a motion to approve signing this resolution.
Motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Deaver. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tout. Any further discussion on this? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carried. And the next is discussion, adopt a resolution to design administration, engineering services.
Yes, sir. We're not going to have any engineering services because we're going to do debris removal, so there won't be any engineering requirements. This is the resolution that'll allow us to be paid and actually do that. We have not been hired by the county. This is the resolution to actually hire GrantWorks. So far, our work has been gratis. We'll start getting paid if this is approved.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I got that. Is that the resolution? The one that's for HRA, TAC 23, or is that another one?
The resolution should be the hiring resolution for GrantWorks. You
Oh, the
designate,
resolution for 2013 for the OMBA 102?
I have not seen that one, sir. I could.
No, I don't mind looking at all. This one right here?
Yes, this is the one.
Okay. All right, real good. Does anybody have any questions on this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Berry. Do I have a second?
Second.
I believe Jeff Beachy. All right, motion made by Commissioner Berry, seconded by Commissioner Tout to approve disaster relief fund resolution. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is discuss, adopt a resolution, designate authorization signatures for the disaster relief fund.
Yes, sir. Just like everything else, there's certain people that signed the contract documents and that sort of thing. This lays out who's responsible for the signatures on the grant application form.
All right, that's the one that's that Form A202. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this for Chloe?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Berry. To have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Deaver to approve the resolution. Program Contract 2013 DR. Any further discussion? And all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you. Now, item number 5 is discuss and take appropriate action on a resolution to apply for the TDHCA.
Judge, what this is a Hood County home program. GrantWorks, and through all of the digging and finding the different grants, the Texas Agriculture grants, what we just got through talking about, it's the $350,000. This is a non-matching grant that will provide possible housing up to 10 or 11 houses. For it's based off your income. I'll let Chloe talk a little bit about that, and then I'll come back to the resolution.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Judge, this is a program that starts with HUD money. It's administered then through Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. And I brought a flyer, and I think most of you have a copy of it on your desk, and I'll leave some from anybody else. Home is income sensitive. Home assistance comes in the form of a grant, not a loan. People have to qualify by income. I was surprised to see that the income level is $29,340 for a one-person household. Most of the rural communities I work with, that income level I've seen as low as $18,000 and $19,000. So this does open this program up to several people. The main caveats of the program is that the person has to be the homeowner. They have to have actual deed. That doesn't mean they don't have a mortgage. It just means it can't be a contract for deed. They have to actually have purchased the house. It can't be one of those type of deals. They have to prove their income. They have to document their income. Can't be past due on property taxes, that sort of thing. What we find, we've done as a company, we've built over 1,200 units across the state over the years. We've got 31 active projects right now, and I've personally been involved in 7 with the 2 cities I worked with. It's one of the best projects out there that are sponsored by the federal government. These people are low income, usually elderly or handicapped in some way in order to qualify, and it does come in and tear down a dilapidated structure and build a brand new home. Mortgage people love it because they're holding the mortgage on a new property instead of the one that was destroyed or was 30 or 40 years old in the past. Great program.
Chloe, what you said,
It does come at no cost to the county. We will come in and do intake applications. We'll have 2 to 3 representatives here. We'll be here for 2 to 3, how many ever days it takes to get the people want but they'll have to come in and apply. We've got the information that they'll need to bring with them to apply. It's a really good program.
What you told me earlier before court was that this will be capped most likely if we get enough applications to 10 to 12 houses, correct?
10 or 11 is what I've been told.
Is that first come, first served, or?
No, sir, they'll be scored once all the criteria is met.
Fairway.
We will encourage you to not change that scoring, because then you get into political footballs.
Okay.
But they will be scored by a state agency, and a list will come down and say, these people qualify, and here's the rank.
So the top 10 or bottom 10 or 11?
Yes, sir.
Not the top.
And the reason we can't tell you exactly is because the bids are going to come in different. We know that whoever ends up with this contract is going to save some money just because, and I don't mean to be mean when I say this, because some of the demolition's already been done. When we normally do this, there's a budget there to actually remove everything. Well,
How long a waiting period?
we think that we can be building houses before 9 months from today.
9
Actually
months?
building houses.
9 months?
Yes, sir. And this is normally a 2-year process.
Okay.
So,
Grant Works administers complete, start to finish, correct? Sir. You administer from start to finish?
yes, sir.
Now, what this will require is the county will use general funds up to $80,000 as a cash reserve to pay program costs before reimbursements are received from the state.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Stan heard that.
So we pay up front and get paid later?
Right.
Well, but if you look at some of the stipulations, the ownership, the property tax receipt, proof of occupancy, I think it's worth trying to see. There could be folks that fall between the cracks that aren't habitat, that aren't in Mission Granbury, and this gives them another avenue of, we've already heard the maximum we can have is 11, and it's a 9-month process to even get off the ground, and so we'll know by the next time we have the next budgetary session what we have to do on this. But it just gives another avenue, and it's HUD money is the way I understand it.
It starts out at HUD.
Okay.
But now, we pay up front first. Is that what you're saying?
Stan's been involved in a couple of the projects before.
Is this like the AMUD grant?
Stan,
We don't even know how many people are gonna qualify.
exactly.
But we know there's a maximum of 11 houses.
Oh, but I mean, what if there's only 4, and we pay $80,000 for 4 houses?
No, that's,
This is, the $80,000, the money we're fronting is for program cost only.
You won't be out that money either. You'll be reimbursed every bit. What the resolution says is that we might need $80,000 before the process starts. But Grant Works never charges any matches at the front of programs. We always charge at the end. You're not going to have a match. So all we're needing is a cash flow in case money needs to be paid. And that's a requirement of the authorization. Stan has been involved in these projects before, and you're not going to be putting any money out. You're going to be reimbursing, you're going to be recirculating money that's sent to you. There's only going to be really one bill to pay, too, and that's going to be to the contractor.
It's kind of pass through.
Yes, sir. There's going to be
like the
to the
AMUD
contractor.
contract was.
So we don't, nobody else is really going to be involved in it. The only bills that will be paid to the contractor itself who actually builds the homes.
Then the grant reimburses us back.
Yes, and there may be some closing incidental, because they do go through a loan closing process on these, even though it's a forgivable loan.
How long we need to leave this open before we know? I mean, will you take applications, will you know if anyone qualifies within a certain amount for his, that'll be a question Stan would have, is if we don't have any applications, or if we have 4 that don't qualify, will you come back and we close this out completely, or is it just stay open, or how does that work?
Now, are you saying if the homes are not built?
Well, I'm just trying to think half full and half empty. Down the road, we only get 4 applications.
Right.
And no one qualifies. Will you officially close the resolution, or will it just die, basically?
The project will be dead at that point, and that happens quite often to us, especially the small communities, where we'll have the funds set aside, then the funds are just de-obligated, and other people get to apply for them. We end up losing our shirt on that as a company.
That was my question.
We do have places that have approved the resolution that we didn't build a house because we couldn't get anybody qualified.
And in that instance, we're not obligated to pay anything.
We don't have any obligation in this at all, except to buy this resolution if the process goes.
You get an application with a solid builder, the skin's in your game. I mean, it's all on your back then, basically.
Sir. Yes, sir.
I'll entertain a motion.
The resolution, the way I read it, Judge, just allows basically you to be the county judge to be the person to sign authorized documents.
Right.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Barry, seconded by Commissioner Deaver to approve this disaster relief housing rehabilitation assistance resolution. Any further discussion? Then all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Consider and take appropriate action regarding policy for overtime during the declaration of disaster.
Judge, I have that here. The treasurer's out of town this day, I believe, at a conference, but between her and the HR department and then different members of the court, a policy was going to be put in place to pay overtime. I don't believe in my time that I've been on court we've paid overtime. We've paid off comp time at the end of a budget cycle. But the way that the policy reads is in the event of a declaration of disaster signed by the county judge and further ratified by Commissioners Court, employees are eligible but not guaranteed additional compensation in lieu of compensatory time and may be paid at overtime rate of pay for hours worked as deemed necessary by Hood County Commissioners Court in relations to a disaster. The overtime's compensation does not apply to exempt employee status of Hood County. Time and attendance records must be documented through the county timekeeping system and must be maintained and denoting the disaster hours worked and only during the disaster hours. These hours will be verified by the county treasurer, passed on through the payroll process, passed on to the county commissioners court for ratification. It's a policy that we need to put in place so that we can pay everyone that worked and had overtime, and basically that's one reason we applied for the grant as well, so that we can help these guys. A lot of people spent their Memorial Day weekend out working at the site. So with that, unless
I
there's
agree
any...
with that too, Steve. Them guys are out there above and beyond their call of duty, giving it their all. I think they should be confiscated with the pay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this overtime policy. Motion made by Commissioner Tout. Do I have a second?
Okay, James.
Seconded by Commissioner Deaver. Any further discussion? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Constable Precinct 4, Chad Jordan. It's to consider and take appropriate action to appoint Mark Carpenter as Reserve Deputy Constable.
Judge, Commissioners, Mark Carpenter is a former county commissioner and former constable in Johnson County. He served 25 years in Johnson County. The instance we had, you just talked about the tornado that come through, and we've talked about it several times. Mark was on the phone with me calling, "What do you need?" Because he was also a former director of transportation for the Burleson ISD. He was ready to come over here, bring buses, drive a bus, whatever we needed. In cases like that, I think it's a great asset to have Mark available as a reserve for us to come in and help. It's volunteer, doesn't cost the county a dime, and requesting to appoint him as a reserve deputy constable.
Chad, I'll ask you the same thing I asked Constable Hart. You're doing this within your budget, correct?
Within our budget, and the one thing, the good caveat with this is Mark said, "Look, I'll even pay for my own bond. The county doesn't have to pay for my bond, I'll pay it." So that saves us $50 a year right there.
So he'll be using your vehicles and/or your space or doing whatever under your...
Absolutely.
So that goes on your fuel budget as well?
Right, but he's not going to be out patrolling, running radar and traffic tickets and things like that. That's not what he will be utilized for at all.
Okay. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Barry and seconded by Commissioner Deaver to appoint Mark Carpenter as Reserve Deputy Constable from Precinct 4. Any further discussion? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2 is discuss take appropriate action regarding CopSync software agreements for the constable.
Judge, Commissioners, we had discussed and we had been approved for our new camera systems we have in the vehicles in the constable's offices. One of the things that we were also given with that by putting in the VidTAC cameras that run through our computers, we also got a year of CopSync software for free. CopSync software is a statewide software. It currently links over 370 law enforcement agencies in the state of Texas. Also, it links a lot of courts. The unique thing about CopSync is by us having it in the car, we can also confirm and get warrants on people from all these other courts and these other 370 agencies. We can also take payment on the those warrants in the cars also. CopSync allows payments on warrants right there on the side of the road through either check or credit card to alleviate someone being incarcerated for that warrant. And the good thing about that is we're not putting people in jail and losing money by having them in jail here in Hood County. So CopSync software, it's 1 year free. After that, if it proves profitable and necessary for us, that would help the court system in Hood County in any way, would come back and talk about that cost at that time. But it's a year free for all 6 vehicles. And this is a memorandum of understanding that I'm asking the county judge to sign. What CopSync does is there's no server cost. We don't have anything with our IT department that's going to put a burden on them. Currently, this agreement is with Moore County District Attorney's Office, and in Moore County, they're housing the information on theirs. CopSync contracts with counties, however their agreements are, that they store the information on their servers, and we run everything through them.
So, 1 year free trial.
1 year free trial.
Don't have to buy it the second year.
Don't have to buy it a second time. If we say, we don't like it, we don't want it, we're done.
Okay.
No cost to the
Are
county.
you going to keep up with the accounting, see if this thing is profitable, if we're making money?
And we're going to progress forward with it and see if it's working. And some of the JPs are kind of looking at and discussing, at one time, but we're kind of held off right now about the warrant sync program, which I talked about the warrants and confirming them in the car, because we do have so many warrants outstanding with our JPs. Having 370 other agencies in the state helping collect your warrants is amazing to me, because the funds are deposited within 48 hours back to the county, back to those JPs.
That was my question. So the judge and/or the treasurer's office or the auditor's office understands, since you're collecting funds, the way I read it, all 4 of the constables are on board here, correct? So all of whoever's collecting those funds, you made arrangements through the appropriate offices to know how that money's going to be deposited?
What that happens is it all occurs through CopSync, and they send the checks directly to the departments. We don't handle any money. It goes through that software, just like an online payment system, and it's paid through CopSync. CopSync takes the warrant fee. They will send us $50 payable to the office for collecting that warrant, but they will send the funds directly to that court. We don't handle any of it. So that's the good auditing part of it, the good money handling part of it. It's directly done, directly deposited with those courts that have contracted with them, and we don't have to deal with that.
So credit cards, or we charge the 3% or whatever, or do you know that?
That's all done through CopSync. We don't even have to mess with it.
So you can go out there and serve a warrant.
We get a hit on a warrant out of, let's say, Shackelford County, because they're in the system on CopSync, or somewhere else out in West Texas, because that's where a lot of them, and even South Texas. We get a hit on a warrant, they can pay for it in the car right there with a credit card, they're done.
Don't have to take them to jail, don't have to do all that.
Or anything, they get a confirmation right there, and they're free to go. The money is paid to the county that originated the warrant, and the $50 warrant fee for the peace officer, fees for services of peace officer, is sent directly back to Hood County. Those things will be set up later.
That's the way I understood it. We don't have to haul them in.
We don't have to mess with any.
How many do you run across like this? How many, I mean, you guys said, you're not running traffic. How many are, I know when you.
The thing about warrants that we deal with on Class C warrants. Class C warrants are fine only. State of Texas no longer has a warrant database. Now, there is one in Tarrant County. They have several counties that are on it. We have tried, I've discussed with several of you, and some of the new commissioners, I haven't talked to you yet about it. We've tried to get on that system. They tell us that our jail is more than 50 miles outside of COG. Well, my complaint is that we have Navarre County, which is 70 miles from COG, but we can't be on that system. We have over 5,000 warrants in the JP offices, and all we want to do is put them on that system, because we have no way of anybody getting stopped for running a stop sign in Fort Worth. They will never know that they have $800 in warrants in Hood County.
And with this, they still won't know, correct?
With this, all the agencies that are on that system will know when they stop that person in their town, because they'll get a hit on them.
Well, I don't guess I understand with COG, though, and this is kind of getting off of your CopSync, but
True.
you open the door. I don't guess we're a member of the COG, the 16-county area. Why does that?
Not administer that program. It's administered through the Dallas, the city of Dallas, and the Dallas City Marshal's office.
Okay.
Totally separate deal. COG's trying to get more information on that and be a part of that, and it's a very quiet deal. They don't let, it's tough to know their board. They won't even let you have a copy of the bylaws and constitution of the North Texas Crime Information Computer System. They won't let anybody have that unless you're a member, and they will not let us be a member. This takes them out of the loophole, and we've got more agencies. We've got 370 agencies that we can work with to help us more than what that would.
How many are located in this region?
How many what?
How
Out of
many
the
agencies
370.
Out of that 370?
Oh, out of the 370, I had a list that I had emailed before. Well, I can tell you, I know Erath County's on it, Parker County DA's on it, the constables in Erath County are on it, Toller PD's on it. I mean, there's a lot of them. Just yesterday, the constables in Somerville County were approved for it yesterday. They're fixing to be on it. Those are just locally next door. There are several in Johnson County that are on it. There are many of them that are on this system.
Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve this one-year free trial.
And all 4 constables are participating, right, Chad? Yes, sir. And the auditor's office, treasurer's office is good with the way the payments are coming in? We have a problem or question? Anybody?
My presumption, Commissioner, would be that all the information crediting the payment would be included in the warrant.
Absolutely. Because we'd have a copy of it.
The warrant is issued, it's going to be issued by one of our justices of the peace, so that's with the warrant. So I don't see how the payment could be missed or that.
It can't be. And those that we serve from out of county and the payments come in, we have a copy of the warrant on the system. They send that, and it's receipted through like everything else.
What is the cost of this system
Once it's done, the cost of this system is $99 a month per user. So you're looking at $1,200 a year per officer on this system.
Okay.
And we have
Per user, let's talk about that. Is that, we just gave you a reserve. Is he a user as well?
He would not. We're talking about the full-time officers we have on the street. If I've got a reserve, I would not want to pay $1,200 for a reserve that's coming in 16 hours a month.
Right. I agree with that.
And why is our contract with County of Moore?
Moore County, what CopSync does is they utilize different counties and they use their servers to store this. They'll go and make an arrangement with them to utilize their servers to store information in their TLITS connection through DPS and the FBI, and it's at no cost to the counties for using CopSync.
But now we don't have a contract with CopSync.
This is part of it. This is the memorandum of understanding with CopSync through Moore County to where everything's going to be going through their information line with TLETs.
Where's Moore County? West Texas. Okay, Panhandle. You know, and there's any issue, venue will be had in Moore County. So we have to go to Dumas if we have any issues.
No, the issue would be with CopSync and not with Moore County, because Moore County.
We don't have a contract with CopSync. This is for
CopSync. It's a memorandum of understanding that
This
we're
is
using
Moore
CopSync.
County.
Correct. County attorneys look through this. We're using them as a host, and it's with CopSync through Moore County. The one we had previous was with Hall County.
I don't know.
Just gave me some problems.
I think
Okay, we'll take care of that.
it's on with more, but through,
But our issue, our contract.
but they have one with CopSync.
Using their TLETs is all this is with CopSync.
So are we just?
And the reason that you have to do this is because of the FBI and DPS, because DPS and, what is Deborah Wright? Job title is? Because without this, no one can get on TLETs. Sheriff has his here in Hood County that we use with Spillman, and these things, this is how it's written to go for DPS. And if this is not done, DPS will not approve it. So which means we can't even use the system at all.
Well, so now, if you enter someone on this system, will Roger have access to this system with his deputies?
The county chose to go on with the city, we spent
But
half.
they already have Spillman though, so what I think I understand him to say when he's come over and asked before, is he's trying to help catch, and I'm like the judge, if you're not running traffic, how do you know if somebody in Somerville County has an outstanding warrant? But I guess on stops, or, I don't know,
When they're serving a warrant.
they would know that someone other county, like Erath County, has an outstanding warrant as well.
Also, the people that we deal with all the courts and all the papers that come through the courts, protective orders, child support, and everything else, we run everybody through that. We can run them through CopSync too. We also have our warrants, and we can take our warrants and run them through CopSync system and see if we get hits on them elsewhere. That's how we're gonna know. And then when they start showing that we're getting hits on them from all these other counties and these other cities that are on this system, our JPs will, be seeing this, and we can document and show that, look, this can be profitable back to the county. Because all those are on Class C warrants is money owed to the county.
Well, the way I look at it, this is 1 year free trial. If you can prove to us this is gonna work, then we can go into an agreement next year.
So do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, have a motion made by Commissioner Deaver, seconded by Commissioner Barrett to approve CopSync for 1 year for the county for free, or no cost, I guess, not free, but no cost. Any further discussion?
Just that I'd like to have an update in about 3 months to see if the money's coming in the way it's supposed to, and if we have any issues
Absolutely.
with accountability and accounting.
Can you come back and do that, Chad? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Shelving, second floor, courthouse.
Shelving, courthouse. I sent Jackie a picture this morning, and there it is. We have records for the justice of the peace in Hood County, and at one time, we had 8 JPs in this county. Sad part is long before we ever had computers and all the way up to the 90s, every record that there is for a judge was handwritten in a docket book, examining trials, bond books. We've got all kinds of things. There's over 120 books that are stored on a pallet in the storage room that are deteriorating. These are records. These are history of Hood County. We came across these several months ago, about 8 months ago, when we started talking to maintenance about the possibility of shelves in the jury room. Well, this morning at 8 o'clock, Gary Tillison came in and gave me a estimated cost of what it would cost to build the shelves. These would go in the jury room, and these books would be stored in these shelves in there. These are records that date way, way back. Some of them in the 1800s, some in the early 1900s, all the way up to the 80s and 90s that are on top right now. And I'm asking that we try and have some shelves. Gary had explained to me in maintenance that these shelves had to be made out of oak to match what's in the court in that room. And his guesstimation is, $600 max, but he's got it to the penny of $537.25. And I say a $600 max to build those shelves to get these books off a pallet and get them up there in the courthouse where they originated, and to preserve those records.
I'd like to see some of the older ones stored over in the Hood County Historic Room that's in the courthouse.
I asked that question yesterday. You want to elaborate on that?
Some of these are public records. When you deal with examining trials, we have search warrants. And when Clara Hardin was a JP, inside these books, we actually have the actual search warrants that ended up being felony dope cases that people are serving time in TDC right now for. These are actual court records. These are all subject to open records.
They are. Yeah.
We have inquest books that are in there from the judges that have dealt with murder cases, homicides, and they've had to go out and pronounce people that are part of these books. Some of these books are already currently stored down at the depot, we have found out as recently. There's a few books down there that are the old records.
So my question is, who's going to take ownership when someone wants to look through these books? How are we going to do that? They're in the jury room, which is usually behind a locked key.
Correct, and somebody wants to examine them, they can ask us in our office, we'll be happy to go up with them.
Okay, so that was my question. How are we going to allow somebody writing an article, a newspaper, or somebody looking for family history?
Absolutely.
Who's going to be in charge of that? That's what my-
It's in our building, we're there. I don't see why we could not assist with that, because it is housed in our building. Otherwise, I mean, if we didn't come across this pallet, these things would sit here and mice get in there, chew them up, and we'd lose all of it, so.
Well, the only thing that's confidential are social security numbers of people that are still living, and any record that's somebody under 18 years old, any minor. So that's about the only thing. And all of that goes away after 75 years, so. And some of those books are over 75. So I'll entertain a motion to bill shelving not to exceed $600.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Tout. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Berry. Any further discussion? And all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
You got those in your budget too, Chad? Tim, do you have budget money for that shelves in your budget? $600? We'll find it and let you know that.
All right, item number 6 is consider and take appropriate action to adopt a resolution requesting the Hood County Appraisal District to reappraise all taxable property in the Rancho Brazos subdivision due to the tornado damage. And the Texas Tax Code 23.02, reappraisal of property damaged in a national disaster area. The governing body of a taxing unit is located partly inside an area declared as a natural disaster area by the government may authorize the reappraisal of all property damage in the disaster and its market value immediately after the disaster. So I'll turn this over to
Judge, I believe you have an ordinance to have this done. That went to the school board last night. They agreed to have their portion done. We're going to start this immediately. Where we can get these values in and get this all certified by July the 25th for the certification. We estimate there'll be about $10 million to be looked at. We estimate maybe losing $4 million of that property that's on the tax roll there. It's going to cost the county about $1,800 in my estimation to have this done, their part.
Well, I think this is the right thing to do. And this is an area of 3,000 feet surrounding Rancho Brazos.
Correct. That area only.
That was my question, though. The 3,000 feet is an aerial 3,000 feet, Greg?
Yes, around Rancho Brazos area only. Yes.
So if someone from Cordova Ranch calls and wants, if they're in that 3,000, y'all will make that judgment is my question.
Make that judgment call, yes.
Okay. They won't be calling our office or the school district's office?
We have them call our office.
Okay.
We will send out appraisal notices once we get through with this to everybody affected. So if they have any questions, they can get a hold of us.
Did they do this at, do you know if where else they've done this when did they do this at, where we had in Bastrop last time when they had the fire? Do you know that?
Yes, they did. Yes, they
Thought
did.
they did.
I think it's only fair that people shouldn't.
Oh,
be taxed
absolutely.
with
Absolutely.
their property being destroyed.
Date, May 15th.
Yeah, of the storm.
From January to May 15th, they'll pay full value, and from May 15th to the end of the year, it will be prorated whatever we appraise it for.
I think that's a fair way to do it.
Motion to approve this resolution, Judge.
I second.
Motion made by Commissioner Berry, seconded by Commissioner Deaver to approve this resolution. And it specifies within 3,000 feet of the boundaries of Rancho Brazos subdivision, Hood County, Texas. So any further discussion on this? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Greg. Sorry you had to sit through all that for that short period of time. Consider report on salary survey for the auditor.
Judge and Commissioners, a lot of this may have already been settled by your earlier action in consent agenda. You approved the revision to the Hood County step plan. And the compensation committee selected certain counties, and several of us primarily myself and the personnel office went through and gathered data.
Let me
We've had-
stop you right there, Stan. Stan and Mary has put a lot of hours in this, and a lot of people don't realize how much time they put into it. Or to give them a big hand for the time they spent in redoing it, going through other counties, digging their stuff up. Y'all have, I appreciate all y'all have done. Y'all have done a fantastic job.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're glad to be of service. Most of what we found was that the existing Hood County step plan is not too far off the mark as far as the average is concerned of Texas counties, of those counties that were selected. Hood County is probably what I would say in the middle of the pack as far as these counties are concerned. For the most part, probably Wise County is at the top. Harrison County would be at the other end. We're somewhere in the middle. For the most part, it looked like our existing midpoints of our salary matrix were probably 2 to 3% below the average. Now, one notable exception would be the grade 1, which is the lowest grade the county has as far as compensation is concerned. That one looked like it was maybe 10% low. And so I suppose the only thing left to do would be for you to consider the specific changes to the salary grade and step matrix, because you've already adopted the policy changes. And what seems to be indicated to me is to make about a 10% increase in step 1, a grade 1 of the midpoint, raising that to about $24,000. And then for all of the 3 matrix that one has been assigned to Road and Bridge, one has been assigned to the Sheriff's law enforcement, and one is for all those who are not included in those, who are not elected officials, but they're included in the office staff workers. One thing would be to drop the entry level on every grade. And the next thing would be to increase the number of steps from 12 to 15. And the effect of that would be to move the midpoint of Hood County matrix up 1 or 2 steps, which is probably just about enough to put the county's matrix right on the market as far as our salary survey was concerned. And the other thing would be, where there's a rather large gap now between the current grade 8 and 9, to increase the number of grades to 12 and expand those. From a preliminary standpoint, it seems to me the cost to the county to do this would be rather small. It would make some big improvements to certain individuals because I think that's what the results of the survey would call for, is that they seem to be off the mark a little bit. This would add a little bit of flexibility in that you would have a few more spots on the matrix to assign individuals. What I would encourage you to remember is that those are just tables of numbers. I mean, they're just percentage progressions of numbers. The art is how they are applied. And I think that would be probably the hard work to be done. But this has been recommended from the Compensation Planning Committee, and they do hope that this will help serve as a good management tool that the court can use as you determine salaries for the various positions of county employees.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve these recommendations for the salary survey results.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Tout. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So seconded by Commissioner Deaver. Any further discussion?
This is, so y'all are basically, I know that Commissioner Tout and Commissioner Deaver were on the committee, y'all are basically done with the survey. Is that correct? Is that what y'all are done now?
Yes, Commissioner, unless someone observes some factual error in it, I think the tabulation is done.
And the policy this morning that was earlier this morning was basically to help someone that comes in from an already outside position or somewhere else to be put at a higher rate instead of brought in at entry level, so to speak. The way I understand it, is that correct?
It's a promotion.
It does.
That was promoted, or someone's been here 12 or 14 years, gonna take an office manager's job or whatever, it will help them not have to go start over at entry level. Is that the way that in layman's terms?
I think that was the clear intent of the committee, was to remove some of the obstacles for those situations.
If you give somebody more responsibilities, you don't want to pay them the same thing. You want to kind of reward the employees, what was trying to do.
Money has to be in the budget, has to be
Yes,
approved
money
by the
has-
auditor and treasurer's office, and then
Yes.
brought forth to Commissioner's Court before.
Yes.
So we just don't have someone that's being stuck at certain spots. Is
Yes.
that correct?
And it's not automatic. It is at the recommendation of the elected official or the department head.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider amending, this is you, Stan.
I was hoping the sheriff would take me off the hook. on that.
JBI? Okay, well, either one of you is welcome to talk. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sheriff.
This justice benefit program, this is up at my office, we gather up all the information for the justice benefit program, and this is a contract that the last one was put into effect in January 1st, 2008, and this is, paper slipped apart here. This is, I guess, is this like an addendum to this, to update it for the future? And I'll read this one description of JBI contribution. JBI has recognized that Hood County, Texas qualifies for awards from the Social Security Administration, SSA, on the Supplemental Social Security Income, SSI program. Hood County, Texas will submit data to JBI for presentation and submittal of the SSI claim. JBI will sort the inmate data and identify those inmates that may be submitted for SSI preparation, prepare the application, format the data according to the guidelines established by the SSA, and submit all necessary information to SSA on a monthly basis. So Lieutenant Jones is the one in the jail that she takes that information out of net data and gathers it all up. And we had 329 people, for an example, in the month of April that we had arrested. And not all of those are guaranteed going to get anything, but there is some people that fit the category of being eligible to get Social Security. And this program, when they're arrested, they cannot receive those benefits, but it can be paid back to the county. So by allowing the judge to sign off on this, this will extend the contract that we have with them that was put up in the past to forward it into the future for us to receive those SSI benefits from the inmates that are incarcerated that qualify for those. So that exact amount of what dollars might come in is really unknown. It varies depending on who you have that's arrested and who actually qualified for it. So it'll be their job to sort that out and see who actually does qualify based on the information that Lieutenant Jones will send to them on a monthly basis.
So basically, JPI will be paid from the money that they collect.
And from the past contract that we had in existence from January 2008, they were paid 22% of all revenues. At this point, we don't have anything to say anything different other than it should stay at 22 or around that percentage that they'll request for their payment, and then we'll get the rest after that.
It's kind of a no-lose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Free money.
free money out of what the inmate would have got if he wouldn't have got arrested. We'll get that instead.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve this. Anybody have any more questions of Sheriff?
No motion.
Second.
Wow, Jeff, you lost out. Dang. Motion made by Commissioner Deaver, seconded by Commissioner Berry to approve this. Any further discussion? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, item number 11, I'm going to move to the end. Sheriff, when we get down pretty close to the end, would you go tell Penny to have the judge recess so he can come and make his presentation on item number 11? Okay, item number 12, consider and take appropriate action regarding the request to replace from Fund 55. This is Lori.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioners, in case you didn't know, I have a very dedicated investigator in my office, Pete Wilkerson, who within minutes of the disaster in Rancho Brazos went to the scene to assist with recovery of bodies and with assisting the victims. And in doing so, his county car was pummeled by hail, and the insurance company determined that it was a total loss. Bob Blessing's been kind enough to allow Pete to use a county pool car until he gets a replacement vehicle. We are requesting to replace the sedan that Pete had with a pickup, and the reason for that is that Pete has to drive many times to Brazos River Acres and other unincorporated areas of the county, and it's not good on the transmission of a sedan. We need a vehicle with higher clearance, and Pete has determined that this vehicle that we're proposing is the best fit for the office. The proposal that we have, and this is a Fund 55 request to replace his car, replace his vehicle, in deducting the $6,825 from the insurance company that they gave for totaling the previous vehicle. Considering the new vehicle, the radio, lights, et cetera, the cost would be $19,677.40, and I've got it itemized for you in the papers that are
Coming off
included.
the state buy board? Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Just to have it clarified, on number 6 there, installation of lights and laptop computer, he already has the laptop, correct?
Yes, this
We're
is
just
the
moving it from one
installation.
vehicle to another.
Yes, Pete had to remove all of the equipment from the car himself overnight before the insurance company came and totaled it and towed it off. And so we still have, the laptop is usable. We do have to replace the radio. The radio that was in there was very old, kind of a hand-me-down, and we need to replace it with an up-to-date radio. So there is a cost for getting a new radio, but the number 6 is just installing the things that Pete took off the car before it got hauled to the dump.
Got one question for Pete. Pete, how often are you out in the boondocks, like you're talking about? I know you go in Rancho, other area. How often are you out in the elements of needing clearance and all that? Okay, I knew it, but I wanted you to say it. Okay.
Pete also, in addition to serving warrants and subpoenas for our office, he also contacts our hot check writers, and many times they are located in areas that are not sedan accessible or not friendly to sedans. So I gave him the option of choosing the type of vehicle that he thought would best fit the needs of the county attorney investigator, and this is what he chose. So we would ask for the court's approval of this request so that we can get him back on the road in
About 19,000 or something?
$19,677.40.
Yeah.
That's
After insurance.
after the insurance
Ready
payment.
to go on the road.
Right, and we can have this done in a number of, I don't know, like a week, I think.
I'll entertain a motion to approve replacing the county attorney's investigator's vehicle from Fund 55 for an amount of 19,000, whatever.
$677.40.
Okay,
So moved.
677.40.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Berry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Deaver. Any further discussion? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Consider and take appropriate, thank you, Lori,
Thank you.
or Ms. Casper, maybe I should say. All right, consider and take appropriate action to approve $20,000 to put in a Moto Turbo repeater and 2 antennas with coax. Sheriff?
Judge, Commissioners, this is an item for a long time, for many, many years, I've been very interested and concerned of how well the radio systems work for the county, for the first responders to serve the citizens of the county. And, we just went through this tornado and everything went really well, but we need to think about moving forward into the future and getting things to where we can depend on a system for the future. And some of the discussion over the last year or so about where we should go with the fire department's radio system, where I should go with my system, with a lot of different things. We've talked about it all, and now the city has built a tower up on at the cemetery on Houston Street that is a great location. It's a higher antenna than what it was before. It's 250 foot, whereas before it was 200 foot. And so I think the time is right. We need to move forward to the future and get some equipment up there to help benefit the departments. So basically all of this is the fire repeater, putting together another fire repeater, using this Moto Turbo system that Ty and Brian Fine had come up with in the past. It's a digital system for the future. It's not P25, but it's a digital system, so it's a great improvement over what we had. And going with a new fire repeater, duplexer, the antennas, 2 antennas, one will be for this fire system and the other will be for an amateur radio repeater, which during the time of the tornado we had the Skywarn people out there trying to get us the information, National Weather Service, so we could get the information to the citizens, which we did. And then damage reporting team to help me, to help you know what happened out there in the county. And then we didn't activate them, but RACES is all part of that too. So we didn't need to get those guys going, but that's all part of that system. So I need to work, I've got some information that isn't in rock solid quotes yet, so I wanted to come to you this morning to consider this and take action on it, but it looks like it'll be no more than $20,000. On this overall program of this Moto Turbo, talked to a couple of the commissioners the other day, and Mr. Tout brought up, would I have any money in my abandoned vehicle fund? And I need to look for the future too. We've got an old repeater that's was put together back in the 90s. And so my part of this deal, not counting this $20,000, but I'm going to buy a new repeater out of the abandoned vehicle funds that'll be compatible with this system for the future when we might have some money to go with that Moto Turbo type system. So that's above and beyond this, but I am going to do that, so we'll all be working on the same page with the same equipment. So I ask you at this time to fund up to $20,000 for the repeaters and 2 antennas and coax to go on the Houston Street tower of the city.
Steve, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I got a question too.
But when you came to my office this week or last week, I don't remember when it was, but the best part I've heard you say to me was by doing this $20,000 upgrade, it buys us time on the $300,000 antenna that you were looking at for the last 2 or 3 budget cycles.
Yeah, this option, the $300,000 was been requested. We put a power pole up on Pleasant Court back in the late 90s, and we've been needing a tower to put our equipment on to get it up where it can be usable better than it is now. And so I've been trying to get grants ever since 2004, and we either had the cost of the steel went up or couldn't fund the building of it. But this would save that $300,000 that I've asked for a number of times through the state grants to fund a tower so we can put our equipment on. The city of Granbury has went ahead and built that, so we're going to use their tower and put our equipment on it. It's in a great place. It's a adequate height, and it's a good tower that'll be there long into the future. So yeah, this will save that money that I won't be coming back and asking you for that money in the future. We'll get the infrastructure started now, and even the total overall plan, which at today's cost to buy those radios, it's the Moto Turbo system, it's about $850 a radio. That's today. Now, in the future, it probably will go up, but, you know, I don't know what the future of things will do. I hope that as technology improves, it gets cheaper, but we found with like the P25 system that last spring, they wanted $8 million for us to do that. So that's, you know, way out there that we can't afford that. But end up to get all the radios that we could want for fire departments, the law enforcement, and road ops to keep everybody on the same page, we'll still be spending less than that $300,000. But I'm not asking you for that now. That's, you know, let's get things going, get it working now, and we'll see what the future brings us. But it'll still be less than that original tower that I asked for.
City of Granbury's interlocal agreements all going to work into that?
And I've got an interlocal agreement that came from the city of Granbury, and I sent it to you, all of you, and the county attorney. She was very busy and hasn't had a chance to look at that and research that. It's pretty straightforward, and I don't believe there's any glitches in it, and so it should work. But what I do is I will work on the bids if this approves today to get the equipment going, and for the next court, I'll bring this agreement back to the court once the county attorney has a chance to look at it all over, and I'll bring it back to you in 2 weeks.
Now, will we be able to use the money that we spend on this for part of our in-kind contribution for the EOC, since this can be utilized for that?
It's infrastructure, because we're going to have a radio room in there, so it's how we put the paperwork together, how we write the reports, I guess. So
Good idea. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve this $20,000, putting a Moto Turbo repeater on the city's antenna. Motion made by Commissioner Deaver, seconded by?
Second.
Tout. Commissioner Tout, is any further discussion? And all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Sheriff, I'm gonna suspend you right now and get the district judge on, because he has a courtroom of people, lawyers and everything, on recess right now. So if you'll sit down for just a minute, we'll get you, and we'll go back to item number 11. Judge?
Morning.
Good morning. There you go. He's not here today, so, no. Save it for him. There you go. Thanks.
Good morning again. I'm here to solicit your response to a request for new jury chairs in the district courtroom. About a year ago, I started sending surveys out to all the jurors who serve in the district court, simply just to get some input from them as to how their experience as a juror is in the district courtroom. And you can see that survey form. Those are attached to the packet that you have before you. And really, you know, it was just simply something I did. I thought it would be good for me to have this information, the court to have that information about the jurors and their experience serving on a jury in the district court. We try a lot of cases to juries in the district court, probably 40 to 50 cases annually, anywhere to from 500 to 600 of our citizens come down and serve in the district court, and they sit in the jury box and serve probably 6 to 8 hours a day when they do serve. And so they, you know, I'm curious about their experience. The thing that became readily apparent was the fact that our jury chairs are not comfortable. And that's the reason I'm here, just to appeal to you and on behalf of your constituents and mine, to do something about that. As you can see there, just to get a brief summary there, we've got the one on the very top there says that the chairs in the courtroom were not very comfortable. The next one is quite interesting. The jurors should not be subject to the worst chairs in the courtroom. The chairs in the jury box should be deemed cruel and unusual punishment. Oh, that was interesting.
I thought...
Fifth one's one I want you to read, the fifth one here, okay?
Fifth one?
One says chairs are not the best. One says, very uncomfortable, cause lower back pain and hemorrhoids. He or she was very upfront about the condition. Please replace the chairs in the jury box.
If you'll remember that the other day when a juror came through carrying a cushion.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Exhibit 1, the judge saw it himself.
Yeah.
We had a jury coming in after our a juvenile board meeting, and one of the jurors walked in carrying a pillow.
big old pillow. I mean, put in their chair. I thought,
Anyway, need I say more? That's the bottom line. And of course, what I did was I had Penny to get some information about replacement chairs, and that's what I've got here for you now.
Thanks, sir.
You can read all those, of course, just various responses that the jurors had to that specific question about the conditions of the facilities in the courtroom. And these are the bids that we have received for these replacement chairs. These are chairs, and then you can see pictures attached to that, too. There's a picture of the chair and the chairs in a jury box in the Tarrant County Family Law Center. And Penny contacted the courts that serve that center. There's some 7 courts in that building in Tarrant County. They have basically never had a complaint about any of those chairs. That's just from looking at the information.
do these bolt to the floor, just like those others?
Yes, they will sit on a pedestal and will be just like the ones that are in there now. They'll be on that. In fact, they will use
That pedestal.
They will use the pedestal and the base that is already there. They'll simply build that into the chair, into the base that we have, and they will use the pedestals in the base that we have right now. But back what I was saying, none of those courts have had any complaints at all. Cabot Wren, as I understand, is a veteran-owned small business. They have a 10-year warranty on these chairs that will be provided if you approve this. The webbing in the seat has a lifetime guarantee to it. And
Well,
again, you have the
what are those swivel chairs down below, that Jefferson swivel chair? What's that for, Judge?
Let me just run through the whole thing there.
Okay.
You've got the Cabot Wren bid there. First, we have 13. Okay, in the jury box, we have 13 chairs, all right? Of course, 12-person juries in the district court. We have a 13th chair in that for alternate jurors. Occasionally, we have alternate jurors in complicated cases or cases that are going to go on for a while, maybe a capital murder case, something like that. We'll have 13, even sometimes 14 jurors, 2 alternates. So those 13 are the chairs that are in the jury box now. And you can see what their bid is for that, $1,240 per chair. And the freight on those is $1,571.40. The next chair is the witness chair, all right? This would replace the current witness chair. And it's $1,305. That chair is a little different, a little bit larger to accommodate the handgun belt. You know, if you go in there and look at the chair that's there, it's all chewed up by the handguns that rub against the wood arm of the chair that's in there currently. And then another chair. Now that's this number 1 down there. It says standard side echelon open air arm side chair. That is the 14th chair. It sits over in the corner. We don't use it unless we have a 14th juror, okay? But it obviously is necessary because we do on occasion have a 14th juror. But it will not be on a pedestal. It will be on 4 legs, and it's, as a result, $900 is the cost for it. And so, and then of course, the freight is shown there. The fee for custom finish is shown there. And that total figure is $20,463.77. There is a state contract fee, the Texas Smart Buy fee, and that is $311.62. Martin's will charge us $175 to offload the chairs when the truck arrives with it. And they will come and offload the chairs for us into this building. They will be put in the hallway there behind the district courtroom. If you're familiar with what I'm talking about, there's a large hallway behind the district courtroom. That's where they would be put, of course, until they were installed. And the bottom line grand total is $20,950.39.
So they don't, I'm just asking you, Judge, or Nelda, they don't install them, or we have to install them?
Right, they do not install them, yeah. We will install them, my understanding anyway.
And I guess you have a time frame to do this when you're when you won't be in court or have a jury.
Well, we'll just, when they tell us that the chairs are finished and they're on their way, then we'll just make whatever accommodation we have to make in order to get it done expeditiously. I don't know, obviously if we're in the middle of a trial, then we just have to wait until the trial is over, and that certainly could happen, but that's just how it is. We'll probably try to get them installed on a Friday or something like that. That's typically a little slower day, but they will construct them and then, of course, ship them down here, and you can see what that cost is. And then Martins would offload them into that hallway, and then they'd be installed at a later date. So
Original jury chairs are in there when we opened this building, correct, Judge?
yes, yeah. We moved into this building in June of '06, so they've been there for 7 years. A lot of people have put their rear ends in those chairs, needless to say, uncomfortably, obviously. I was quite frankly not aware of that until I started conducting these surveys. It's obviously that, as you can see, that's a repeated and continual complaint, and so, I'm just here asking on behalf of the people that have to give their time in the courtroom.
Endure it, huh?
Yeah, to make it a little bit more comfortable on them. It's not a very comfortable experience to begin with, and most people don't want to be there. But, nonetheless, they have to be there in order for the system to operate. So, we try to make it as comfortable an experience as we can.
You're asking us to buy these out of capital? I mean, you're asking us to, you don't have money is what you're saying. You want us to buy them?
No, I certainly don't.
Doesn't hurt to ask, got it?
Certainly don't. And I'm not paying for them personally, so,
All right,
Motion to approve.
motion made by Commissioner Berry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tout to approve. Let's not to exceed $21,000. How does that sound?
I think that will cover it, yes. It looks like
Out
it,
of
certainly.
Fund 55.
Right.
Any further discussion? Then all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
I'll let you
gentlemen.
get back to your trial.
That on behalf of our citizens, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Sheriff, you're back on. Sorry for the delay. Consider and take appropriate action regarding the request in the amount of $7,725 total cost for storage containers for record storage.
Judge, Commissioners, ever since I came in as sheriff, when that building was built up there, we had one records room, and it got full back in Sheriff Mayo's time, and they built a whole nother room that was the same size as the records room. When I came in as sheriff, it was packed. So one thing that I started doing is we bought scanners, and we started having all the clerical staff, when they had time, to start scanning in records. Well, we're getting farther behind than we are ahead because the records are building up faster than the scanning process is going. So a lot of the records that I've got, they're piled up in that room, and then I've got in that building out in the impound yard, there's a room out there that is totally packed full on shelves and in the floor and everywhere, and a lot of it's deteriorating because of leaks and problems with that building associated with that. And it's definitely more than a critical issue I've got now, what to do to save those records. Like you had brought up earlier about those books that were found that Chad was talking to you about. Well, all my records have to be saved for basically 75 years. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and a lot more in the last few years that are coming fast that we've got to protect and save. And so the newest stuff we'll save in the building, and the oldest stuff we'll store out in the impound yard. What I came before you today is the $7,725 is I thought, what can I do the quickest, easiest thing, and that's to put one of those storage containers or shipping containers out there. And shortly after I became sheriff, we did that because of evidence collection for the hazardous materials, different things. And my evidence rooms are full to overflowing too. So we bought that. It's a 40-footer and put it out in the impound yard. And so what I'm going to do is sit two of them side by side and utilize those for record storage also. So that's what I've put on the agenda to have you consider and that request. And it's, a 40-footer is $3,650, and this is just one price quote that we got from Schubert Storage Containers, so we'll have to look and get a better price quote, or get others, I guess. And then this company, it's $2.50 a mile, and they come out of either Graham or Dallas. So the worst-case scenario of asking for two of them, and they come from the furthest place away from us at 85 miles, then it'll be $3,862.50 a piece, or $7,725 for the two of them.
Do you wire these and have electricity in them, and are they climate controlled?
They're not climate controlled. They're just storage. So you go in there with a flashlight or daylight. So it's just going to serve as a storage place to get these records out of the building, get them up off the ground, get them.
You stack them?
Yeah. That's the only way we could do it. Now, I'm probably going to need to figure out how I can put some kind of shelving in there, because those cardboard boxes, I don't want them collapsing it. So we'll have to have some kind of organization to it.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
I'll make.
Motion made by Commissioner Tout. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Deaver. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Sheriff. Animal Control, I'd like to present to court a non-monetary, whoa, this is good, item that have been donated. All right.
I've got a list, but who's familiar with that? Here, I'll pass those out while you start talking.
Thank you so much. Good morning, and I'm here to give you the list of the non-monetary items donated to Hood County Animal Control from May 16th through the 20th. I'm asking that you accept these items as official donations.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept these items.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Deaver, second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Berry. Is there any further questions you have for Kelly?
You don't want to expand on that, tell us a little bit about what it was and who all donated it?
Yes,
I mean,
actually, there is one item missing from this list, and that is we had a group from Fort Worth come and donate a brand-new washer to the animal control facility. Our washer had just burnt out the 2 days before the tornado, and we were worried about how could we get a new washer, could we get one donated, and then the tornado happened, and the group called and said, what can we do? We received over 6 pallets of dog food by hundreds of concerned Hood County citizens, and so we were overwhelmed with all of the help that we had received, and I asked them, I said, well, we do need a washer. And they said, you've got it. And they delivered it the next morning. So we just really appreciate everyone who came forward to help with the displaced animals. So, and I know that this list, I didn't put the quantities, it's just it was an overabundance. I mean, we received so many donations. So.
No, it's not on the agenda, but I had a question. I have it almost asked daily, but do you have any more displaced animals left?
Yes, we do. We probably have 4 dogs and 10 cats.
Okay.
We've been very busy with cats. I think we've received over 65 cats in 3 days, and that's just from the county. That's not from the tornado. And I'm trying to hold on to these 10 tornado cats, but we're pretty full.
But out of 100 dogs to start with, and you get them all back to their owners, only 4 left is a pretty good number.
Yes.
I mean, a great number on y'all's part.
Yes, and the ones, we did release some to rescue, and the rescues are understanding that if the owners did come forward, that they would graciously give them back to their owners.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
No.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Kelly. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
I think last item is discuss take appropriate action regarding roof repair at the Acton Annex. Tim?
Judge, Commissioners, the insurance company has came and looked at the roof at Acton Annex. It was damaged in the hailstorm and has recommended a repair. In order to proceed with that, risk management has a letter that needs to be signed by the county judge that we can send back to them that will start the process of funding these repairs. So I'm asking courts give the judge permission to sign this letter.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Berry to have a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tout. Any further discussion on this item? Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. It is 11:40.
Holy smoke.
We're adjourned.